Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 4. In this video we're going to be lighting up this room with some delicate sun lighting, as well as adding a secondary light and 2 spotlights to fully light this room. So first off, we're going to add our sun. So you simply type in sun. You're going to make sure that it's turned on and it's on manual control. We can go ahead and close this window. We're going to open our asset editor, go into the lights panel, select the sun, and this is where you have all your adjustments and settings for the sun. So we're going to go ahead and set up an interactive view. Make sure your viewport is selected that we want to use. And here you'll see we have our room. So we want to change the angles so that it's at a low sunset angle, and then just adjust it until you have the sun shining in. So about there looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and change our background. So we go into settings here, go into environment, select this, and where it says bitmap, we want to change it to sky. The default settings will look good for this scene. If you want to adjust the frame so you can edit it in Rhino, I'm going to go to render output and select show safe frame. So here you can see if we change the size of the window, you can see what part V-Ray will be rendering. So that's why I set it to about the same size. And then for a quick interactive render, you want to set the image width and the height to be lower. So we'll set it to about 1000. This will allow us to get a quick view of what's going on in our scene. Now we want to adjust our camera parameters. To get the advanced camera parameters, you go into the right tab here by clicking this arrow. We go to advanced camera parameters. We're going to set the ISO to 100. Aperture at 8 is fine. And we'll set the shutter speed to about 20. This will give a more harsher lighting on the window. And then to get that realistic camera look, we want to set the vertical lens tilt underneath the effects tab here to about -0.05. So this gives us a little bit of distortion that you would get from a real camera. Now that we have our sun placed, we want to go ahead and add in our first secondary light. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the sun by opening this light tab and then clicking on this icon, and that will disable the sun, so we only have the skylight. You can go ahead and stop this render. If you want a live render of what you're working on, you can set it in the viewport here. So we're going to change it to V-Ray Interactive. Now we can see our frame as we're working on it. So we're going to go ahead and load in our light. Also, when you're working your document, you can go ahead and just turn the safe frame off to add our light. You can also use the viewports here to quickly add it. We can change the intensity later, but just for the positioning, we're going to make the light a bit smaller. So you want the light to be closer to the wall, as it will accentuate the shadows and make your scene look more 3D. So this light is far too bright, as we only want it to light up the shadows in the image. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the parameters. We'll change the sensitivity. So that's what it looks like without it. And we want it just to light up those dark shadows. So we can set it to about 12. Now we're going to add in 2 spotlights to light up the end of the bed and the dresser on the right. So I'm just going to turn off the render for now to save a bit of the CPU. Then we'll place the spotlights using the right view here. So there's our first light. We want this to light up just the end of the bed. So we're going to adjust the angle. Go ahead and enable our interactive view. And to set up this light, we're going to turn off the rectangle light. So we only have the spotlight. We're going to change the units to radiant power. And we'll set the intensity to about 5. And we're just going to need to adjust the position slightly. And then you can adjust these angles here. So this angle adjusts how harsh the line is where the light fades off. Maybe we can turn our intensity down to about 3, possibly even 2. We turn on our rectangle light, and we see it has lit up both of the sides here. And now we're going to go ahead and copy and paste this so that we can light up the dressers on the right. And again, we can turn off the other lights. It's about there, looks good. We can turn on both lights. So now we can see what our scene looks like with all 3 lights enabled. So it looks like it's lighting up the scene pretty well. To add a bit more technicality to our scene, we're going to go ahead and make the right hand side lights a lot warmer and the left light cooler. We can do that by going into our color. So on the spotlights, we're going to set it to a slightly more warmer tone. And then the rectangle light can be a cooler color, so we'll set it to a more blue. Now with everything enabled, you can see that the interior lights are a bit dark, and we've got the colors a bit too warm. So we're going to go ahead and adjust parameters. I will increase the intensity of the spotlights. And that rectangle light as well. Also in the settings of your sun, we can increase the size multiplier. This will give us a lot more softer shadows. So now you can see the shadows are not as harsh. And you just need to play around and adjust the settings until you're happy. We want to make sure everything is evenly lighted. Now that our scene seems to be all set up, we can go ahead and stop this render. We're going to go into our render output settings, and we'll set this to a larger image. So usually for a computer screen is 1920 by 1080. So we'll set it for that. If you want a higher detail image, like a 4K image, we can set it to 4000. But for now, these settings are good. We go ahead and turn off interactive view. We'll set the quality to medium plus just for the sake of this video, but if you're doing a final render, you can set it to high. So something important to keep in mind, we go to global illumination here. Default V-Ray setting sets the secondary rays to light cache, but we want to change that to brute force. So now we'll go ahead and start our render. So just looking at our final render, the sunlight is a little bit too harsh, so we can just go and adjust that by changing the intensity multiplier. about 0.8. And we also set the vertical angle down slightly to about 12. And that will just make the sunlight a little bit less harsh. And I'll go ahead and do our final render. So now the render is complete, and this is our final result.